Yeah, it has been a while.
Dr. Bradley Nelson, welcome back to the Hidden Why podcast.
Hey, it's great to be back, Lee. You're looking good.
You too. It's been a while, I think probably a few years since we had our first interview about your first book, I think it was, The Emotion Code.
Yeah,
It was the first book, and now you've got The Body Code
the body
and now
code. Yep,
now
body
the
code.
Heart Code. All interrelated.
Yep. Yeah, the emotion code book first came out in 2007, and
Oh,
then
wow.
we followed. Yeah, we and so then that we republished that in I think 2019
That's what I thought, yeah.
as a hardcover, and that's probably when we did our interviews. It might be
That's about
longer.
right.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then the body code book I think came out in 2023, and then the hard code book comes out this December.
the Heart Code. So
Yeah.
tell us what's changed for you personally since then.
Well, our business has grown. Our reach has increased quite dramatically. We have, I think, probably the last time I talked to you, we might have had a couple thousand practitioners certified. We have over 15,000 practitioners of the emotion code
Wow.
now that we've trained and certified in 108 countries around the world. And so yeah, that's kind of fun, and we're still traveling, and my wife and I travel all over the world and teach. I'll be in Switzerland this coming weekend at the Flow Summit, not this weekend, but the weekend after,
Yeah,
in Basel. And then yeah, then we're going to be back in Japan in March. So yeah, we're all over the place. It's
that's
fun. It's fun
exciting.
stuff because this stuff works, and people are finding that out, and so it's kind of an amazing ride. Honestly, it's really fun.
That's awesome. So talk to us. So the emotion code, I mean, we look at really breaking down those emotional barriers that get trapped inside us, and it's all about the practical tools to release those, right? To
Mhm.
help us
Exactly.
live more fulfilled, meaningful lives.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, the thing about it is, if you are experiencing physical pain right at this moment, tune into your body. If you're in pain somewhere, there's 9 out of 10 chances that that physical pain is actually being caused by what's left over from some emotional experience that you went through, which is
Right. Hmm.
kind of unbelievable. But I'm telling you, that is exactly how it is. Until the emotion code came out, people did not realize that physical pain could be caused by emotional baggage. These emotional energies. It's an amazing thing. But since the book came out, now we've been when we republished the emotion code in 2019, Tony Robbins was, he wrote the forward for us.
Yeah,
And then he also wrote the forward for the heart code. And so that's kind of an amazing thing. And we've gotten a lot of really great endorsements for this work from people like Joe Dispenza and Greg Braden, who was just on Joe Rogan. You guys listen to Joe Rogan down there?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh, many do anyway. Many don't, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So so it
yeah.
gets, I mean,
So
the emotion, I mean, the emotional gets trapped, that energy gets trapped and causes the pain that we're experiencing.
well, yes, and it's not only physical pain, but it's all kinds of other issues as well.
Hmm.
It's depression. It's amazing how many times we have seen people, even suicidally depressed people, who are able to turn things around within often just a matter of days, by
Yeah.
having trapped emotions removed. It's anxiety, it's phobias, it's panic attacks. Think about the people that you know, and think about your own situation. Are you dealing with any of these things? I mean,
Hmm.
eating disorders, uh, inability to lose weight, self-sabotage. If you know anybody, for example, that works really hard and they achieve a certain level of success, and then they seem to inevitably lose it and they have to start over again,
Hmm.
that's one of the side effects of emotional baggage. But it's not only that, Lee. It's also It's also that every disease process has an emotional component to it. And so if you've been diagnosed with a disease, and I don't care what the disease is, you might think, oh, well, this disease, it's an autoimmune disease. So that doesn't have anything to do with emotional baggage. Wrong. You might think, oh, this is cancer. Doctors know what that is. No, they don't know what it is. That has an emotional component. You might be dealing with multiple sclerosis or some other kind of disease. I don't care what the disease is. I mean, I've been doing this now for 30, I think 36 years or so. And every disease process that I've seen and that all of our other practitioners in 108 countries have seen is that there is always an emotional component to disease. So
Hmm.
you might be doing everything right. You might be exercising and getting, great sleep and plenty of water and good foods and so on. But if you've got some kind of an issue, that may not be enough. You might be taking all the right supplements. That may not be enough for you to get over this because the emotional baggage is often the seed, that kind of starts things off.
So it's trapped in the body or the subconscious mind, this
Well,
emotional issue.
they're subconscious.
Yeah.
Um, we all have a conscious mind where we spend all of our waking hours, right? Where we make our decisions, we have our relationships, we work our jobs, and so on. The conscious mind is an almost infinitesimally tiny part of our actual intelligence. The vast majority of our intelligence is not conscious, it's unconscious, it's subconscious.
Yeah.
That's the part of you that is creating millions of new cells every minute and keeping your heart beating and your lungs working and creating trillions of chemical reactions, every
Hmm.
few seconds in your body. It's your subconscious mind that's doing all of that. And the subconscious mind remembers everything you've ever done, every face you've ever seen in a crowd, everything you've ever eaten or
Hmm.
touched or tasted or smelled. The whole history of your health or disease is actually logged in your subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind, it turns out, is actually a computer of sorts. Now, I was a computer programmer starting in the early 1980s. I took a class in 1980. I was going to college in Hawaii, and I needed one more class to fill out my schedule. And the only class that fit was a class on computer programming, and I wasn't interested, but I took it because it fit. And suddenly found out I was in love with computers. And so became a computer programmer and did that for a living. Well, then when I went to chiropractic school and got into practice, it began to dawn on me that within every single patient was this computer that was untapped. And so it's a binary computer. And so you can ask questions of the subconscious mind and you'll get answers. And the simplest way to demonstrate this for all your listeners, what they can do, okay, is just grab a friend, have them hold one arm out parallel to the floor in front of them, and then have them make a true statement. Like, for example, if your friend's name is Jim, have him state, "My name is Jim."
All right.
That's a true statement. And then if you
Yeah.
press down on his arm, he'll be able to resist you. But if you have him say something that's incongruent or untrue, like if he says, "My name is, Fred," he's going to weaken. You can try that. And that's how we can kind of that's how we get a glimpse into this internal subconscious mind computer. And it's amazing how much it knows. It knows everything about us. And so all the answers about what's really wrong with us are within. And we can ask questions now and get answers. And that's what all the work that I've created or that I've been able to really channel, you'd say, into the world, the emotion code, body code, belief code, heart code is all,
Yeah.
it's all from above. But that's what it's all about. It's all
Ho-
about accessing that internal computer.
What's the link between holding your arm out, as in that example you gave, holding your arm out, obviously saying a true statement, and your arm holding firm compared to a
Mhm.
non-true statement and it weakening?
Well, the um, the subconscious mind is kind of like a light switch, right? Normally, the subconscious mind or muscle strength is switched on. Okay. So if I were to walk up to you, Lee, and if you were to hold your arm out and I were to press down your arm, you'd be strong, right? If you were to say, "My name is Bob," your body would weaken a little bit, not a lot, but just a little
Yeah.
for about 3 or 4 seconds. And then it would go back to normal. So it's like the light switches off just temporarily and then it goes back on again. So within that window of time, you'd be weak. But if I wait very long, you're going to be strong again.
Mm. Is that because it's processing new information or?
Um, no, it's just a temporary weakness. When you say something that's incongruent or
Yeah.
untrue, or negative, or if you're thinking something negative or incongruent or untrue, your body will be a little weaker there,
Mm.
for a few seconds. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's almost like a spring-loaded switch. It's like if you've got a light switch in your house that's loaded with a spring, it's normally on. If you pop it down, but it'll pop back up again in about 3 seconds. That's kind of how the body is. I don't know exactly how it works that way.
Is that a link to then, your congruency? So how you're living your life, if it's not congruent with your actual values and things like that, you may feel a little bit more deflated, depressed, anxious, etc.
Well, I think so. I mean, the further away we are from the will of the higher power, from our true purpose and so on, the further away we get from that, the more trapped emotions we tend to develop, and really the unhappier we are. You know, I mean, if we're living in total opposition to how we know we should be living, we're not going to be very happy, right?
Mm.
And that's just natural law that's going on. The more we can align our lives with the will of, the Father, the source energy, however you want to refer to it,
Yeah.
happier we are, you know.
So constantly having a practice of tapping into these emotions, these ideas that you share to help release them is going to be better longer term rather than just keep on going because it'll just build up over time. Perhaps that has some link with the midlife crisis potentially.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is, the way I look at it is this. It's kind of like when we're born into this world.
Yeah.
For the most part, we come in with this really clear, clean energy field, right? But then as things start to happen to us and mom and dad argue, they get a divorce, and then we have breakups, and then we have bad work situations, and we get bullied or beaten up or whatever. We go through all these things and we develop emotional baggage, and each bit of emotional baggage is kind of like a little cloud, like a little dark cloud in this clear, clean energy field that we started out with. So that most people, by the time they get to be an adult, if you could see their energy field, it might look like a storm front that's moving through, maybe with lightning and things even. And with the emotion code, we're able to start removing those clouds so that pretty soon you just have a partly cloudy day in that energy field. And as you keep going, pretty soon there aren't any more dark clouds left. And what happens is, Lee, in that process, people will often say things like, they feel like they're turning back into the person that they used to be, or that they feel like they were intended to
Mm.
be. And
Mm.
that's really cool, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole idea. Yeah. Another way
The
to look at it, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say those emotional dark clouds, like building up over time, obviously creating more pain, whether it's physical pain or just mental pain, causing a lot of the issues and unhappiness that we might deal with in life, right?
Right.
So, how do we tap into understanding what they are and I assume it'd be a regular practice.
Yeah. Well, we outline that in the emotion code, right? We
Yeah.
explain how to communicate with the subconscious mind, because these emotions are not known to the conscious mind. They're known to the subconscious mind. But consciously, we don't know. We might have an idea, but we don't really know.
So the
So
emotions that we're conscious about, would you say they're like the daily things that like anger or frustration or
yeah, if we're
sadness?
dealing, yeah, I mean, think about it this way. Actually, let me tell you a story that will help.
Okay. I like stories.
There's a guy that came in to see me when I was in practice who had um, really severe low back pain. It was about a 9 or higher on a 0 to 10 scale. I tested him and found he had a trapped emotion. The emotion was anger. and it was something that had occurred 20 years before, and I figured all that out on the testing in the space of about a minute, right, or less. And he said he remembered what it was. It was a work situation. He'd been falsely accused, I think, of cooking the books essentially, and was really mad about it because he was totally innocent. And so he was so mad about it that that anger didn't get processed well and became stuck in his body. And so he's got this ball of anger in his low back. So I swiped a few times down the middle of his back, down what we call the governing meridian, which runs straight up the back, right up the middle. I swiped a few times to release that emotion, and all of a sudden the pain went from a 9 to 0. I mean, completely gone. And this guy's walking around and he's bending over and he's twisting this way and that way, and he's saying, "Where did it go? Where did it go? It's gone." And it didn't come back. So a couple days later, he comes back in for a follow-up and he says, my back still doesn't hurt. He said, "I still can't believe it." But he said, when I came in here, I had a problem going on I didn't tell you about. He said, I've been what you'd call a rageaholic for about as long as I can remember. He said, "I'm always yelling at my wife and my kids. I got to watch the road rage. And I've been to anger management a couple times, hasn't helped me." But he said, "Since you released that trapped emotion of anger from me, I feel totally different. I just feel really relaxed. And things that used to just set me off, like somebody cutting me off in traffic, it doesn't bother me anymore." I said, "How'd you do that? How does that work?"
Mm.
And at the time I said, "Well, I don't really know. But here's what we believe, okay? Think about this guy. He's got this, he goes through this intense, anger. There's no anger quite like the anger of being falsely accused of something, right? He was really mad. So that anger emotion didn't get processed, and the energy got trapped in his back. So after distorting the energy field in that area of his back, remember trapped emotion is about the size of a baseball, the size of a softball. After all those years, 20 years of having that energy distort his energy field in his low back, now suddenly he's got so much pain. He comes to see me. His next step is surgery, and it's really from what happened 20 years before. And here's the thing, think about this. When a situation would come along in his life where he might tend to feel the emotion of anger, he'd slide right into that vibration, see, because part of his body was already vibrating at that frequency. It's a weird, weird thing, but I'm telling you, that's how this works. And so, you know, we all have emotional baggage, and the average adult probably has about 300 of these trapped emotions. So you can
Yeah.
begin to see how they can distort our path. And these emotions are things like, oh, anxiety and hopelessness and despair and betrayal and heartache and panic and resentment and dread and on and on and on. There's 60 emotions that we use.
Yeah. What's the science
Yeah.
behind all this?
Well, it's really quantum physics.
Right.
Um, and when I was in my practice, I was just trying to figure out what was really wrong with people. And, I was open to anything new, old, accepted, unaccepted, frowned upon. I didn't care. I would try anything. And
Yeah.
I had a habit of praying and asking for guidance from up above with everybody that I saw. And so gradually, I began to understand how things really work. And
Yeah.
it's a very strange phenomenon, trapped emotions, but you know, um, it's very interesting. In fact, we just finished a study. Um, I don't know if can I share my screen?
Um,
May not work.
may not work.
Yeah, that's fine. We just finished a study on mice, and these are mice that had been subjected to a certain amount of trauma. There were four groups,
Right.
and the bottom line of this study was that the emotion code and body code were used on one
Mm.
group of mice. Another group of mice received a drug called olanzapine, and emotion code body code work on these mice matched or exceeded the benefit of the drug, but without any adverse effects. And so We saw huge improvements in behavior from 3 to 1,300%. Antioxidant markers, 700 to 900%, stress markers, 75 to 90% reduction. So we're quantifying all of this now. We don't know exactly how it works because it's a quantum thing. You know, one of the next studies that we're going to be doing is about inheritance. And this is right in this same area. What they found probably about 15 years ago in Atlanta was they were studying mice and subjecting them to a certain amount of trauma, sensitizing them to a certain smell. So when a certain smell would, it was the scent of, I think, cherry blossom would float into their cage. At that same time, they would electrify the floor of the cage a little bit. So it was uncomfortable for the mice. And so pretty soon they developed this sensitivity. If they would smell this smell, they'd have this fear reaction.
Hmm.
Well, what they were trying to figure out was how does an adult mouse that's been sensitized transmit that information to subsequent generations? Because they found
Yeah.
that even 4 generations down the line, they could take a mouse that had never been subjected to any shock or cherry blossom scent, and if they smell that cherry blossom scent, they'd have a fear reaction, just like their great great grandfather, right? How does that work? They're trying to figure it out. Well, how is it communicated? They don't know, but it's a quantum phenomenon, and we call that inherited trapped emotions, actually, and that's also part of the emotion code, body code,
I've
and
heard about that, yeah. So things, past traumas from past generations getting carried through that affect us
yeah.
today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so they've proven it in the animal world. What we're going to prove is that the emotion code uh, is really the antidote for that, that we can release those energies. It's really fascinating stuff. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense that an animal would absolutely do that and transmit that some information that was necessary to try to
Carried
protect
on for
their offspring,
survival,
right?
right?
Yeah, absolutely right. But human beings do it too, of course. There was a
So
book that
the
was written.
emotions are there for a purpose, they serve a purpose.
Yeah,
Yet if
sure.
trapped, like you're saying, that they actually don't purpose us as much.
Well, they serve a purpose, but they're a double-edged sword. Um,
Hmm.
because, for example, let's say that your great 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 grandfather was jilted at the altar, right? And then had this tremendous emotion of betrayal about relationships that passed to his kids. Well, now that's passed to their kids and their kids, and now it's living in you, and you may be single now because you've got that emotional baggage that doesn't even really belong to you. It's from him, and he's been gone for a long time.
Yeah.
So, it's very interesting the mechanism and how it works. There was a book written recently about the survivors, the grandchildren of Holocaust survivors, and what they found was that they are definitely different from the normal population. That they're more susceptible to stress, that their DNA is a little bit different. But if I'm convinced that if we worked on those people with the emotion code and released those inherited energies passing down the line,
They wouldn't
that they
get
could
passed on.
normalize as well. Yeah, I think it would
Have
fix them.
you, have you, I mean, is it possible to release all these bagged emotions to help someone live full, true lives? Or does it always
Yeah.
come back up and reoccur? Or can you release it and once it's released, it's done?
Once we release a trapped emotion, it's gone. It's kind of like taking a credit card. Grab a card out of my wallet here.
He's going to cut
It's
it
kind
up
of
in
like
front of
taking
us.
Yeah, it's like taking a credit card out of your wallet, right? And rubbing a magnet on the magnetic strip that contains the data. Is that data coming back? No,
Hmm.
it's not
Yeah.
coming back. It's gone. So it's kind of like that. Now, the last chapter in the emotion code book is really all about how to prevent developing new trapped emotions, right?
All right.
Um, and that has to, so in that chapter we talk a lot about forgiveness and how important it is to find forgiveness for yourself and for other people that have wronged you, because the childish way that we deal with things typically is we withhold forgiveness in an attempt to try to get even with the person, but it doesn't affect them. It just dams us, in the sense, in the way that you would dam a river, it stops us from really being able to progress.
Yeah.
And so by finally forgiving everybody, uh, I think you can't really find total peace in your life unless and until you've actually forgiven everybody. And the hardest person to forgive a lot of the times is ourselves because we were there and we made the stupid mistakes that we made, right? We should have known better. And so sometimes it's really hard for us to forgive ourselves, but we have to because, otherwise we're stuck.
So a good forgiveness practice, obviously, as a preventative method.
That's one thing. Yeah. I mean,
Gratitude, I would
um,
assume, would be a good thing.
yeah, my favorite quote about forgiveness was from a guy named Lewis Smedes. I quote him in the Emotion Code. He said, "Forgiveness is like setting the prisoner free, only to find out that the prisoner was you." Right? And we talk also about pride, and pride is in the sense of being in opposition to other people. It's like being in a state of resistance. And the worst kind of pride is to be in a state of resistance to the higher power. you know and so when we can stop the resistance and allow ourselves to have unconditional love for ourselves, that that goes a long way towards that forgiveness process
No.
and a long way towards acceptance, right?
Mm.
Because when we're in a
Mm.
state of resistance, it just life doesn't flow.
Interesting that thing on pride. Like they talk about it in some religious studies that, pride is not a good virtue.
Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of the what do they call it? Like the godfather of all sin because it's like when Jesus said, uh, "Not my will, but thine be done," right? Speaking to his father. Uh, in other words, my will doesn't matter. I'll just do whatever it is that you need me to do. But when you're in a state of pride, it's like, not thy will, but mine be done. And so if I'm really in a total state of pride, I don't really care what other people are doing. I'm going to do my own thing. And if I hurt people along the way, it doesn't really matter. And you see so much of that in the world now.
Yeah.
So much of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go into the heart code. I mean, you talked about the heart wall, I believe, in the emotion code, correct?
Yeah.
Is that what led you to write this book just about the heart wall?
Yes, exactly right. In the heart code or in the emotion code book, there's one chapter
Yeah.
about the heart code. And that chapter is called The Walls Around Our Hearts.
Hmm.
And we knew as soon as the emotion code book was published, Gene and I knew we were going to need to write another book one day just about the heart wall. And so let me explain this. Well, let's see. Anciently, they believed that the heart was the seat of the soul and the source of love and creativity and romance. And they believed that the heart was really the core of our being.
Yeah.
Well, we've never paid any attention to those ancient ideas about the heart. If anything, we might think that that was just poetic license on the part of these ancient peoples, that they didn't have the kind of technology that we have today. We know the heart is just a muscle, it's just a pump. But in 1991, I believe it was, they discovered that there is gray matter and white matter in the heart. There are about 40,000 neurites in the heart. And they call it the little brain in the heart. And it's a completely separate nervous system from the brain that's in our heads. And this nervous system in the heart seems to contain the memories of the things that we really care about the most. Our true affinities are stored
Hmm.
in this brain in the heart. Yeah. And
Wow.
and that's why when they do heart transplants, it's not unusual for people to have complete changes in their taste in food or music or sports or sometimes they'll have memories of being in places that they never in their life have ever visited.
Hmm.
Yeah, an acquaintance of ours got a heart transplant. Big, tall, very masculine guy. Got a heart transplant. And the heart that he got was from a woman. And he said that when he got out of the hospital, his car would kind of automatically pull into Starbucks and he'd go to the counter and he'd find himself ordering a hazelnut latte drink, which he never really drank before. He never really cared about it, but then found out later that was her favorite drink. Also, she loved ice cream and he couldn't pass an ice cream place without stopping in and getting some ice cream. And that was, so those were two huge affinities for her that he now has in his heart. Well, we believe that the heart is
Or
really everything the
intelligence.
ancient. Yeah, it's absolutely. I believe it is the seat of the subconscious. So the vast bulk of our intelligence really lies in the heart. And so sometimes we feel like our heart is going to break. So, Lee, let me ask you something. Can you remember a time in your life where you were really feeling deeply hurt or deep in grief and you felt that sensation like your heart was going to break?
Yeah,
Do you remember
heaviness in
that?
the chest. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's a very common thing. And the ancient peoples knew this too. Human beings were no different then. And by the same token, uh, have you ever been in a situation where maybe you're listening to someone sing or perform or, you know, doing something truly from their heart, and you also feel that here?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
right? Have you ever had that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have too. And if you look around, let's say you're in a theater or something, you'll see that there's all kinds of people with their hands over their hearts, and they'll have, maybe some tears in their eyes because their heart's resonating with that person's heart. So, the ancients knew this. So that's why they said the heart was all of these things. And I believe the heart's the seat of the subconscious. Well, when you feel like your heart's going to break because you're really feeling deeply hurt or grieved, and you've got that physical sensation, maybe like an elephant sitting on your chest or like you can't breathe, your heart is under assault in that moment. And so the subconscious mind will start to build a wall around that heart. And that wall is made of layers of your emotional baggage. And we call it a heart wall. And getting rid of that heart wall, by the way, about 93% of people have put up a wall like this, and it's a totally subconscious thing.
Hmm.
You don't know if you have one of these, but most people do. And it's interfering with your ability to really give and receive love,
Yeah.
to feel the love of the higher power for you, to really be able to create and manifest that perfect creation, that blueprint that's in your heart for the perfect life that you can live. And so,
It's kind of there to protect us from further hurt, right? Like
exactly. Yeah.
from,
But totally. But I mean, the problem with it is that when that wall is there,
hmm.
then, it's kind of like living with your heart in a bunker and it handicaps you in a certain sense. One of the very first women, one of the very first people that we saw was a woman who came in to see me. She had neck pain. It was about a
Yeah.
9 on a 0 to 10 scale. And she had seen a couple of other doctors for this and they hadn't been able to help her. So she came in to see me and she told me that she was 38 years old. She was a nurse and she was single and hadn't dated in 8 years and she was never going to date again. She was going to die single and she was really serious about it. And I said, well, how'd you arrive at this? I mean, why do you feel this way? She said that 8 years before, she was really deeply in love with this guy who betrayed her and broke her heart. And so that was it. She hadn't dated since then. Was never going to date again. So when I when I tested her, I found that she had put up a wall, a heart wall. She had a heart wall. There were three emotions making up this wall. So when I cleared the last one of these emotions, and by the way, they all had to do with the breakup from 8 years before, like
Yeah.
grief and sorrow and so on. When I cleared the last one, all of a sudden, the neck pain was gone. It was a 9, it went to 0, boom, just like that. And she left the office feeling totally fine and didn't come back for 3 months. When she came back in to my office, I'll always remember this. I saw her in my hallway and I said, "Hey, I haven't seen you for a while. How are you? What's going on?" She said, my neck has been fine since I was here, but she said, you cleared that heart wall for me. And that really works. She said, about two weeks after I was here, I found out my childhood sweetheart has been living right around the corner from me for almost 8 years, and we're dating, and we're in love, and I think he's going to ask me to marry him, right?
Hmm.
And I thought, well, wait, I thought you were celibate, but no. And so it's amazing what happens. About a month ago, one of our practitioners told us that she was working on a very elderly woman who was in a nursing home, who'd been a spinster all of her life and never really had a long-term relationship or anything. And she cleared her heart wall. And a week later, she reports that she's fallen in love with another resident, this guy down the hall at the nursing home. So there's no age limit, right? But
Yeah.
that's one of the huge aspects of this. Listen, Leigh, the reason why we have a goal to open 1 million hearts. We're trying to we're trying to get as many of these heart code books out into circulation as we possibly can because people need to know this. They need to understand this
Hmm.
because people have told us for the first time in their life when that wall is taken down, they know what it's like to feel love. They know what it's like to feel joy. People have told us that for the first time in their whole life, they're able to feel the love of the Creator for them. I mean, think how profound that is. It's just,
Life changing for the individual, but globally as well for everyone.
well,
This would
right.
have a
Think
big
about it.
impact. Hmm.
A
Because
big
there's a lot
reason
of people.
why,
I would assume I have a lot of heart wall barriers there, just by talking about and reading and some of your work there as well. How might someone identify their heart wall and release that?
well, in the emotion code, we have the simplest method that you can use to tune into the subconscious mind because you can't do this without tuning into the internal computer, right? It has all the answers. We don't have the answers consciously. We don't know what emotional baggage we have. We might suspect, and we might be right for some of it, but there are things that happened when we were kids, in the womb, preconception, things we've inherited that we have no idea whatsoever about.
Hmm.
And so, one of the simplest ways to communicate with the subconscious mind is through something that we call the sway test. And the way that this works is if you think about it, if you put a plant in a pot and there's light shining, the plant will tend to grow towards the light coming in from the window, right? And if you don't rotate the pot periodically, it's going to be bent in that direction. And that's because light is, of course, is a positive input for the plant. It needs that light. On the other hand, they've done studies and they found that if you put a plant in a room with uniform lighting all around where it would tend to grow straight up, if you put a speaker in that room that's playing really harsh negative music or really grating,
Hmm.
nasty sounds, the plant will grow away from the sound coming out of the speaker and the
Yeah.
roots too will bend away. Well, the human body has this ability to sway, it'll tend to sway forward if you're holding thoughts of positivity, congruency, and truth. If you're holding thoughts of negativity, falsehood, and incongruency, you'll tend to sway backward, right? And so, so here's how we can do this. I'll talk your viewers and listeners through this. The best way to do this is to stand up, okay? And you just drop your hands down to your sides. Now, if you're seated, you can do this. If you sit right on the edge of the chair, it definitely does work easy. It works better. It's easier if you're standing. But anyway,
Standing. Yeah.
yeah, drop your hands down to your sides. Have your feet about shoulder width apart. Take a deep breath. Let it out and relax. Now, first of all, as you're standing there, relaxed, you'll notice that it's not really possible to stand perfectly still. There's
Hmm.
always a little bit of movement going on. Your body might shift a little to the left or the right, or maybe at an angle, and that's just your postural muscles working to keep you standing upright so that you don't fall over.
Yeah.
But what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to think about, we'll start with something negative. Think for a moment about that word, um, war, and think about what really goes on. That's a word that we've heard all of our lives, right? But for a moment, I'd like you to imagine what really goes on, what's really happening when a war is being fought. What's happening on a human level? What are people doing to other people, right? People that are wearing one uniform, what are they doing to other people wearing a different uniform? It's essentially legalized murder, wholesale, right? That's really what it is. Think about all the villages destroyed, the cities bombed. Think about all the families destroyed, all the lives lost, all the people that were maimed and crippled and made disabled by all these wars that are still going on Earth. And as you start to connect with what that word war really means on a personal, more intimate level, as soon as the subconscious mind begins to realize what it is you're thinking about and connects with that, what will happen is your body will start to sway backward. And that's your subconscious mind trying to move you away from the sheer negativity of those thoughts, right? Now, let's shift to something else.
They're
Okay.
saying
So
negative energies will push you backwards,
negative, yeah, thoughts of negativity,
positive.
falsehood, incongruency tend to push you backward. Now
Yeah.
let's shift to something really positive. Again, take a deep breath, feet about shoulder width apart, let it out. All right. Let's leave those thoughts of war behind us. And now I'd like you to think about something completely different. I'd like you to imagine that we're living about 1,000 years in the future, and you're still alive, but you have changed in some really significant ways. First of all, this world that you live in now is a world filled with unconditional love. There's no darkness in the world. There's nothing negative in the world at all anymore. And the world is filled with love, but you yourself have become a vessel of love. Your heart is filled with unconditional love for all of creation, for all beings, to the point that that love that fills your heart cannot even be contained by your heart. And that love expands out from your heart and goes out into every part of the world. And it even goes out beyond our world and goes out. And imagine that love of yours going out and filling the immensity of space itself. Imagine what that would feel like. What would that feel like to be that ascended of a being, to be capable of that kind of love? And as your subconscious mind connects with what you're consciously thinking, in that moment, you'll begin to sway forward. And I know a lot of your listeners and viewers right now are probably right on their tiptoes because that's a very powerful image. And so we call this the sway test, and it's simply the body's ability to sway forward on thoughts of truth, positivity, and congruency, or backward on the opposite, negativity,
Right.
falsehood, and
Hmm.
congruency. So here's what you can do. To start this process, the first thing you can do is find out if you have a heart wall. And how you do that is you just stand there with your feet shoulder width apart, take a deep breath, let it out, and then ask this question um, about 5 or 6 times in a row. Do I have a heart wall? 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 And as you are, as you're thinking about this and asking that question, if you have a heart wall, you'll probably end up swaying forward. Okay. And that's a yes answer from your subconscious mind. And that means that all of your love relationships are affected to some degree adversely. It means that your ability to manifest the perfect blueprint that is in your heart of the life you can truly live is being affected adversely, is being
Hmm.
limited. It means that your health is also being limited. Let me tell you something really
Would,
amazing.
sorry, would you sway
Yeah.
backwards if you had a high wall? Why forward?
Yeah. Well, because it's answering a question. Do I have a heart wall? And so that would be a yes answer would be forward.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Mhm. Now, if you just say heart wall and you sway, you might just sway backward. Yeah. But if you phrase it in the form of a question, then yes is always forward and no would be backward.
So if I said,
If
"Do I have a heart wall?" and I started to go backwards, that'd be a good sign that I'm
yeah,
pretty clean
that
there.
that if you go backwards, that's a no.
Hmm.
Um, if you get a no, you might want to check it again in a week because sometimes the subconscious mind has to weigh things for a while. When it's thinking about getting rid of a heart wall, sometimes it has to kind of think about the consequences and the pros and
Yeah.
cons.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that
What
so
What do
that
you
happens.
believe? Why do you believe the subconscious is in the heart?
Well, I believe that consciousness really is a very interesting concept. And I mean,
Hmm.
what are we really? Well, we're so many pounds of skin and bone and muscle and nerve and and blood vessels and organs, and you could pile all that onto a table, but that wouldn't really be you still. We know that when we die, right, the body loses a certain amount of weight. It was back in, I think, 1905, they did this study,
Yeah.
right, where people who were dying, they put them on a scale, and at the moment of death, they'd lose a certain amount of weight, about 21 grams of weight. And their belief and theory was that that was the weight of the spirit leaving the body. And I think that that's true. In every seminar that I have done for many years now, all over the world, I'll ask by show of hands how many people in the audience have had the experience of dying temporarily and being actually able to look back down and see their body, like from the car accident or the hospital room or whatever. And it's always about 1% of the people in every room that that have had that experience. It's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Hmm.
So the spirit is I think, is a very, very real thing, and I believe that's really who we are. See, when we die, that spirit part of us leaves the body, and uh, and is I believe it's eternal. I think that we have no beginning. I think we will have no end, and so um, let's see. What was your question? I was trying to get
So I want to
to
ask a
it.
question on what you're just saying there now about the consciousness and with some of the like drug therapy people are using now and people sort of escaping that deeper pain and they having this awakening almost.
Mhm.
Have you looked into much of that and how that's interconnected? Because that's quite fascinating to me because I think a lot of people when they take these psychedelics, for example, they have this
Yeah,
almost out of body experience where that consciousness or subconsciousness is kind of evaporated, not even relevant to
yeah.
their experience. And that then gives them a profound awakening to, okay, there's something more here.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, and I think that there's a lot of fertile ground there for for research and studies.
Mm,
I think that having your perception altered sometimes can really be enlightening. You
yeah,
know, for you. I remember I heard Mike Tyson speak one time. He said that someone I was at this event and he came and spoke, and he talked about how. Someone came to his office and gave him a bunch of mushrooms, magic mushrooms to eat. And so he ate these mushrooms and he had this experience where he was able to perceive himself from another person's point of view. And he realized he was a total jerk, he said, a total jerk. And it completely totally changed his life, actually. He, started doing things for charity and and doing things that were a lot better than
yeah.
being involved in the things he had been in before. He happened to be high on mushrooms at the time he was speaking to us as well, which I thought was kind of funny. But
Did you
anyway,
think that somehow is related to releasing these emotional clouds, this emotional baggage?
well, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I can't say 100% for sure. I think that I mean I've talked to people who have kind of experience both sides of it. For example, for example, ayahuasca, right? I've talked with people who have had really great ayahuasca experiences that have really changed their life because now as far as did it release their emotional baggage, I can't tell you that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I think it's possible because it's the subconscious mind that holds on to these things. But but the easiest way to do it, I mean, because I've also talked with people who, for example, have done things like ayahuasca and that have not had good experiences.
Hmm.
And so, it kind of can go both ways. I think that if you're going to do something like that, you definitely want to be in a supervised kind of a situation and
Absolutely.
be safe and so on. But I think that sometimes, I mean, I don't use anything myself at all, but but I do think that something that can maybe give you a different perception can be really valuable because you might realize, for example, like Mike Tyson realized he was really super toxic, right? And didn't even
Hmm.
know it, which is often how it is, I think, with toxic people. They don't know. And but anyway, so the great thing about the emotion code is that you can use a method like the sway test to get yeses and nos. And then essentially the way that it works is, in fact, if you go to our website at discoverhealing.com, we have something on there called the immersion path that helps to kind of walks you through the releasing of a trapped emotion, your first trapped emotion. And then the Heart Code book, of course, is coming out really soon, comes out December 2nd. And you're in Australia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You got
So,
practitioners here?
oh yeah, we have practitioners all over the world.
Are you
So if you
coming
go
to
to
Australia?
Discover, yeah, oh yeah. If you go to discoverhealing.com, there's a practitioner map. You click on practitioners or find a practitioner, and you'll see a
Yep.
global map, a Google
Yeah.
map, and not all of our practitioners are on that map, but some choose to be on there. But we've certified over 15,000 people now in the emotion code in over 108 countries. And we've got, I think, about 5,000 certified in the body code, I think about 2,000 in the belief code. The heart code is not going to be a separate level of certification. What the heart code is it's it's a way for us to bring the focus back on this incredibly powerful phenomenon that is the heart wall. Because if you've got a heart wall, you need to get that taken down, not only for your physical health, but you know, for your emotional and mental health, and for your ability to bring love into your life
Hmm.
and connect with the higher power and all kinds of things. It's I think the most important single thing that you can do for yourself. If you've got one, you can get more bang for the buck by getting rid of that heart wall than anything else you can do. And
I would
in
assume
fact,
most adults would have.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I would assume most adults would have a heart wall.
Mushrooms?
I would assume most adults would have.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I'm a little bit hard of hearing, and I'm the speaker's
Your
kind of
audio is
tinny
not
on this
correct.
end. Sorry. Yes. Well, 93% of people have a heart wall.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so,
So, best place to go to find out more is discoverhealing.com.
yeah, actually, what you can do is, yes, exactly right. Discoverhealing.com. But if you want to pre-order the Emotion Code book,
Yeah.
you can go to my personal site at Dr. Bradley Nelson. That's DrBradleynelson.com. And you can pre-order the book. And if you're in Australia, what you can do is you can pre-order the book, and you're, you would be making a donation of the books to people, to libraries and things. The If you want to order, yeah, but you can get, for example, if you order, oh, let's see, anywhere from 5 books to 49 books, you get a personalized free 30-minute heart code session with one of our practitioners. Um, we're doing a big sale right now, um, trying to really trying to get the book, to a wider audience, etc. So that's at drbradleynelson.com. So if you,
Yeah.
yeah, otherwise you can go to Amazon. What do you guys have? Amazon.au or
Amazon,
what?
yeah, .au.
Yeah.
So
There
we'll
you can
we'll stick the
pre-order.
links in the show notes there. I can see on the website there, Dr. Bradley Nelson. You've got yeah, pre-order specials as well, where you can order, more books and get gifts with it. It
Yeah.
will be on Amazon 2nd of December,
Yeah.
the hard code. All the books, other books are there as well, so we'll put the links in for those as well.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah. I think so. It's a lot of fun, and I've devoted my life to getting this information out to the world, and it's amazing to me to see people learn the art of healing. I believe that everybody that's born into this world has a birthright to be able to heal themselves and their family members and their loved ones. So most things can be helped by just removing emotional baggage. There's always going to be a need for Western medicine. We're not trying to teach people to be doctors or anything, but we are trying to help them regain this lost ability to heal, and they can
Hmm.
do it. And it works.
Yeah. Backtracking a fair bit here, what got you into this practice?
Well, when I was 13 years old, I had kidney disease, and there was nothing that could be done for me medically, and nothing to offer. And I had about a 50-50 chance of surviving. And my folks took me to see some old time holistic doctors that started working on me and pulled me right out of this disease. And so I decided, okay, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And they were very discouraging when I would tell them that that's what I wanted to do. Because they would say, if you go to chiropractic school or some school of natural healing, they'll fill your head so full of fixed ideas, you'll be like a zombie when you get out of there. You won't even be able to think. And so then I got into computers, and then it was really a very powerful answer to prayer that brought me back to going into the healing arts. And I'm so glad,
Hmm.
because I'd still be a computer programmer, except for the fact that my dad uh, asked me this question in 1984. He said, "Are you sure you don't want to go to chiropractic school? It seems like a great career, and you've always wanted to do that." And I said, "No, I'm going this other direction." He said, "Well, why don't you think about it one more time?" So I did, and
Oh, love
the
it.
rest is history. Yeah.
Wow. Cool stuff. And next for you, what's next on the agenda? You're going to talk about the inheritance of
Well,
emotions.
yeah, we've got more books we need to write. Need to write another book about, the ancestral connection and how releasing these emotions helps those people that are, on the other side.
Yeah, yeah,
We haven't written that one yet, but we'll probably get that one done here pretty
that's
soon
interesting.
too. Yeah.
No, it's been legendary. Thank you for coming back on the show for a second round, and all the best with the book launch. Hope it goes well. I'm sure it will. You're doing great things around the world, so good stuff,
Thanks so much, Lee. Great to talk again. It's good to see you
guys.
again. Take care.
You too. You can check it out at thehiddenwhy.com. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. See you again.